Folks, thanks for joining us today for This Week in Agribusiness. We appreciate being a part of your weekend. May is coming to an end, which means we're coming to the end of Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's not over yet. And of course, it's always worthwhile to think about the issues that we grapple with mental health-wise, and Max did that with our friend Adrienne Desutter.
We're wrapping up our Mental Health Awareness Month visits with Adrienne Desutter, who farms in Central Illinois. She and her husband and their family, and she also has advised other farm families on this issue of mental health, getting more attention these days. And this Memorial Day weekend, it occurs to me, Adrienne, that we have so many military veterans who live in rural America, many involved in farming. This can be, in its own way, this weekend, a real challenge for many. It's not a happy vacation weekend for many. It's a weekend of remembrance and for some sadness.
Absolutely. I think there are, as we kind of were discussing earlier, that idea that a lot of military folks come from rural areas. I will never forget, as a school counselor, working with military coming in to do recruiting, and how many youth really felt like they found their purpose when they met with those military advisors. So it's a very honorable thing that we see people going into, but absolutely can be a struggle. I was just reading an article this morning, actually, on the amount of Army folks in particular, in this specific article, who had died by suicide, and how that was not only impacting those people and their families, but the entire military base and that entire branch of the Army. But because people really, suicide doesn't just impact one person, it is something that a lot of people pay attention to. So it's absolutely, mental health is something that is critical to be talking about along the lines of agriculture, but also in the military perspective as well.
The PTSD burden is a very real one, and it's a long-lasting one, it seems. I remember going to the airport one morning, and a neighbor of ours was coming down the road. I knew him, a military veteran, and I rolled down the window and said, "Hey, what are you doing, pal?" I knew he hadn't been out drinking. He said, "No, I'm just on patrol, Mr. Max, just checking out the neighborhood. I can't sleep." And it was a reminder, a very powerful reminder to me of what some of these folks go through.
Absolutely, yes. There's, it's really hard, I think, to fathom what it must be like to live with something like PTSD, to make those constant connections with sounds or things that you see, things that you hear, smell, anything, in any way that your senses can work, can function, can relate, can bring you back to a time that was a frightening time, or a worrisome time, or a time where you didn't really know what was going on, or a chaotic time. So we make these connections now with things that we have experienced in the past. I want to take this opportunity to mention that PTSD, we do connect with military, because that is, definitely the prevalence of PTSD in military folks is quite high. But anyone can experience PTSD. It may be the loss of a loved one that you have that we see throughout the rest of your life, the way that impacts you. It can be terrifying experiences that you went through, in your childhood, or even, for me, I know I struggled with one of my births, one of my deliveries of one of my children. And so just knowing how that continues to impact my mind in a PTSD related way helps me at least relate to people that are really struggling with that. But it's one of those things where it's hard to gain control of your emotions, your frustration, your anger, your sadness, because of the way that it brings you back again to that hard time that you were going through. So definitely a mental health condition that we want to make sure we continue to advocate for.
Veteran or not, sometimes it's a struggle for some to get that help they need. But I've had folks tell me they delayed it. It was one of the worst things they could do. That the most important thing they did was to finally take that step and to help lift that burden some. It can't always be easily lifted, as you pointed out in the past, but there is hope.
Absolutely. There's a staggering statistic out there, and I'm not sure how old this statistic is, but they say that people with a mental health condition like PTSD, like depression, anxiety, the average amount of time before someone experiences the start of those symptoms between when they actually have a diagnosis or start to get help for those things is 10 years. That is a long time carrying those weights without support, without the support that you really need. So we really need to do a better job of, again, recognizing that these things are real conditions and that there are real treatments that can make a world of difference. I will never forget a conversation I had with a farmer who said to me, I realize it's taboo, but therapy and medication changed my life. It saved my marriage. I only wish I would have started sooner. And I've got loved ones who will tell you the same thing, that once they finally pick up that heavy phone to make that call to get help, it is amazing how life-changing it really can be. It's a process. It doesn't happen after one session or one medication. It's not an overnight fix by any means, but that process makes a world of difference. And so if you're someone out there who is on the fence or realizing you need to get that help, I really encourage you to move forward with that.
Thank you so much for sharing those words of hope with us this weekend, Adrienne. You've been an immense help again this month of May during Mental Health Awareness Month. We sure appreciate it. Hope you folks have a good growing season on your farm in Illinois.
Thank you so much.
Adrienne Desutter joining us here again this weekend.
Thank you, Max, and thank you, Adrienne, for your insights during this Mental Health Awareness Month. Folks, if you're looking for more resources for mental health on the farm, Farm Bureau has set up the farmstateofmind.org website, and they'll have a webinar on Tuesday.